Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the 34th Annual Peer Mediation Conference, Adventures in Peer Mediation. The Peer Mediation Conference has been bringing youth peer mediators ages 8 to 18 years old for over 30 years. This is the first year the conference has gone virtual to connect peer mediators around Hawaii and others aspiring to develop their own peer mediation program. My name is Jose Barzola from the Matsunaga Institute for Peace at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. This year's Peer Mediation Conference is brought to you as a collaborative of 22 different organizations around Hawaii that support this conference that is spread out throughout the month of April. The Peer Mediation Conference consists of an opening panel, 16 skills workshops, and a closing panel. You can learn more about all the events at matsunagainstitute.eventbrite.com. Today's event will focus on the skills workshop on opening the gridlock with JiaQi. Thank you for joining us to learn about peer mediation skills. This session is an opportunity to focus on how to discover and resolve root issues in an argument in order to resolve conflict and to handle disagreements in peace. And you will see a lot of these skill sets are very transferable as a peer mediator or mediation, or just in your everyday transgressions with your people you may know or not know. So a little bio, JiaQi Lee is a student here at the Matsunaga Institute at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She has studied better communication practices such as conflict resolution, intercultural communication, negotiation, psychology. JiaQi initially studied these topics to develop the skills to assist her community to communicate more effectively, but then realized that these are very useful tools that everyone can benefit from. So we're very thankful to have you here today. And to get us started, I'm gonna turn it over to JiaQi.
Hello, everyone. So, yeah, I'm JiaQi. I am a student at the University of Hawaii and trying to pursue a certificate in peace study. I've taken a lot of classes in psychology and communication or peace study, and throughout the classes, it just occurred to me that I found the subject in conflict resolution really interesting, and that is why I created this workshop. The gridlock in this presentation refers to conflicts that's hard to resolve, and in the situation that you feel like you are going nowhere with the other person, and now you guys are in a gridlock against each other. So before we dive into the presentation, I want to introduce you guys to our interaction tool, the Jamboard. You should be able to see a link in the chat box if you want to click on the link. And once you click on the link, you should be able to see this a notes page. Let me know if you guys have problem opening the link. And it brings you to the page that I have a question to you all of asking what brings you to the event today. And if you want to answer it, that's really easy. You click on this little note on the left side, and then you can put in anything. I don't know, I want to learn more. And if you don't like the color, you can change whatever color and then save. And I would then see your note. So I would like to know what brings you guys to my presentation today. Give me a thumb up if you don't have problem opening the link. Good. You can always leave question in the chat box if you need help with anything. And let me see. That's so cool. I want to learn more. I want to learn how to approach conflict with less fear. Yes, a lot of people definitely feel fear to confrontation or any sort of involvement when it comes to conflict. Curious to learn about how to handle conflict. Yes, how I enjoy learning conflict resolution skill and meeting new people interested in the same. to learn skill for managing conflict. Okay, I'm happy. Everyone wants to learn about how to manage conflict. Okay, so now I know. Now, as we warm up to this little tour, so we can use it through the presentation of some interaction sessions, and we'll dive into our presentation right now. So this. So opening the gridlock. Refers to unresolved conflicts between different parties due to incompatible goals. Conflicts can due to a lot of different reasons, but a big part of the reason it's really come from incompatible goals, and that's what we're going to approach for this part of our presentation. So let me introduce you to a few goals that could possibly, when it's in conflict, it will triggers our arguments or fight. So the first goals that I want to introduce is topic goal, also means contents goal. That's the other name for it. Which really just means the contents of what you want to do about something, different ideas of what to do. So it's the contents of like a direct, and compared to maybe an emotion goal will probably be, oh, I'm upset, whatever, but this is really just the reason of what you want to do differently about an event that your partner want to do it otherwise. And then, for example, your friend would say, can I borrow 2,000 from you? And you would be like, should I lend her this much money? Maybe, and now you're in a content conflict because your friend wants this money, but you feel like, oh, that's too much to lend it. And another example will be, let's visit Bali this summer, but I always wanted to visit Hawaii. So now you have the content conflicts that you guys land on different decisions on what you want to do. Not really decision, you haven't come to the decision yet of mindset or preference of what you like to do. So the troubleshooting for this sort of conflict is really helpful if you can write down and discuss the pros and cons through this process, as you're writing down the pros and cons and you share your reason with your partners. And through this process, you will be able to understand the other person's value as well as expressing your own value. To go through the process, and this will help you to come to a conclusion of what is a more valuable decision that you want to make. So for example, oh, I want to visit Bali, but the other person, oh, I want to go to Hawaii. And after you write down the reasons, maybe you find out, oh, I want to visit Bali because I want to go surfing, but the other person wants to visit Hawaii because my family is there and I haven't seen them in 4 years. So whether this is your friend or your romantic partner or any relationship, maybe like you can do this go through a logical little talk to yourself and go like, oh, if I want to surf, then I can also surf in Hawaii, but not just Bali. And your friends, and that person want to visit the family, and the family is only in Hawaii. So maybe you will, or maybe either way, oh, I want to visit Bali because I've been wanting to do this for 8 years now, and this is my chance. And I mean, and the other friends could be, oh, I've been visiting my family every year. This year I can go to Bali with you. So values and understanding to each other could come out through the process of discussing pros and cons, because you're sharing what's valuable to you and understanding what's valuable for the other person, and come up with something that could compromise both. So that would be a great approach for a topic goal. For the next goal that I want to share is our relational goals. Those are goals that when it is in conflict, it could trigger questions of doubting of who I am to each other, like who are we to each other and how do we want to be treated? Who am I in this relationship? And do you even care? Or examples as such. Also, another example, A and B are in a heated argument and they're raising their voice at each other. Normally when this kind of situation occurred, and A and B, of course, assuming they're not acquaintance, they actually care about each other. They could be friends, family, or a romantic relationship. And when this kind of situation occurred, that they're raising their voice and they're desperate and want to express their own view, a lot of the time, feeling is hurt in this process, because whether by the other person is the way they talk to you, or you feel like you're not being understood. So in this heated situation, it's word is hard to be conveyed, because maybe you guys are arguing about, oh, I want to go to Bali, but why can't I go to Hawaii? But maybe in a situation that both people don't really care, but you just feels like why the other person just don't really pay any attention to my need, or not being understanding. So maybe you're really hurt by the other person not really investigating your reason that why you want to travel, not necessary that you want to travel to this place. So to troubleshooting methods to express what your reason is you can really take a deep breath, because it's a really heated situation, calm down and show acknowledgement to the other person's concern. Maybe you have a reasonable reason for you to express what you said. However, maybe you said it in a tone that hurt the other person's feeling. So you might say, oh, sorry that I make you upset. Or I make you upset and I would like to work on, oh, maybe your friends, your roommate, hey, you never do dishes, like you don't care about this house. And maybe you were really upset and offended, and just be like, wow, like I know I could work on it, but you don't need to talk to me like that. And you can say, first, before you explain yourself, it's important to explain yourself, but before you do that, it's important to acknowledge the other person's concern. You can say things such as, I'd like to work on this dishes that I didn't know it bothered you that much. And then you can express what your opinion of what you're feeling is. It's really important to express it clearly, because a lot of time when things is heated, I don't know if you have this this kind of experience before, but maybe you want to talk about, oh, you hurt my feeling, but because you're really mad, so you go like, oh, you're talking rude and you're such a rude person. And then maybe that just gonna trigger this conversation sideways, instead of talking about, oh, the dishes to solve it and your tone better. And then it goes to an endless fight of, what are you talking about? I'm not doing this. I'm just telling you my concern. And you'd be like, but you're raising your voice. So let's not go sidetrack and go to all the relational conflict when you when you express yourself and you maybe offended the other person at the same time. So we can use this XYZ expression, which basically means X showing how how I feel. X is how I feel, Y is in what situation, Z is what I want you to do. So for example, I would like you to come ask me questions when you are doubting me, not yelling at me when you're with your assumption. That really hurt my feeling. So that really hurt my feeling is X in this case, how I feel. And when you're doubting me will be the situation of why. And I would like you to come ask me questions when you're doubting me. So I would like, that is Z of how I want you to do. So your conversation will be clear, because there's different situations, like situations where maybe you just be like, you're just rude. Can you stop being rude and just be nicer next time? And maybe the other person is really in the heat of expressing their own feeling. They're not really acknowledging what they're doing to be rude. So maybe it's really hard to fully convey your message in that sense, because the next time the person's emotion is high, they might do the same thing. And then you say, oh, you're rude again, but that person's be like, I don't really understand what do you mean by rude. And then if you point it out, oh, can you not raise your voice, and that person will acknowledge, oh, that's what you mean, so I need to control my emotion when I want to yell. I probably need to breathe and take a deep breath. So it's important to use this XYZ expression, so it doesn't, following this logic, you don't get lost in emotional task that you got carried away with complaining or feeling hurt. And most of all, it's really important to understand that a relationship interest carry more urgency than topic interest if left unaddressed. That means, for example, if let me give an example. If okay, our famous Bali and Hawaii example. So maybe the emotion is hurt not because that you want to go to a specific place when you travel, but you wanted your partner to or your friend to hear your reasons and investigate it and come up with solution. Oh, maybe we can travel to Bali, but can we go Hawaii like next month or next year? Having a process and communicate about it. But if feeling getting hurt, that you start feeling, oh, you don't care, you just want what you want and don't care about my feeling, and feeling is getting hurt in this um, in the process. And when this happens, it's really important to adjust the relational goal and to make sure that you calm the partner, make them know that you're trying to work with them. Because if you don't do that, you will never get to the topic goal because you will start stuck in on why you talk to me like that. I'm not talking to you like anything. What are you talking about? Oh, but you just raise your voice. Oh, but I'm upset. I don't feel like this. So you will never really result on, so where do we go in Hawaii or Bali? So in order to resolve this topic goal, it's really important for us to locate what kind of goal conflict is involving in our argument. So, and adjust the relational goals if emotion is high and conversation is getting sidetracked. So mention about this, I would like to give a situation. So, and I would like to see you guys this is a little exercise. So the situation is your friend is late for lunch and you've been waiting for a while. And now your emotion is probably getting a little bit frustrated. So when you finally see your friend, how would you how would you talk to your friend? How would you tell your friend your feeling? And but you don't want to start an argument. You just want to make a point, get the point across, and let your friend know. And but not forgetting acknowledge your friend of where he's coming from or she's coming from. So this is a little practice. If you're ready, you can go ahead and click this little note. And I would like to hear from what would you guys do? Probably give about 2 minutes for this. And I put the troubleshooting here. So as you guys come up with solutions, if you guys need some guidelines, I don't know, suggestions, you can look at that. Please don't have pressure, just try. Okay, let's look at. I would like for you to text me if you know you will be late feel a little anxious when our time is limited. Does that work for you? What do you think helps us in this situation? This is really great because you show your feeling and you show the situation and you go on to try to work on the situation in a really polite way in asking. And I would like you to give me a heads up when you're running late. It is a bit hard to be waiting for such a long time. In the future, it will help both of us to come on time and have more time to hang out with each other. This is really great. It shows the situation is really a bit hard and it shows your expectation. I think all this comment is really amazing. I think one more thing that we could add on to those amazing comments that we really use the XYZ expression is to do the acknowledge of other people's concern. Maybe we could, that is just a way for the other person to maybe feel better when they know they're late and then guilty and then they take the suggestion from you. So maybe a soft start for them, like, I really appreciate you to finally, like, you take your time to come here to meet me, and like, thank you for being here, like, I'm happy to see you. And then you go on to I rated how I feel. So that, give that acknowledgement, it will really make a conversation really easy for a head start. Now let's go back. And let's go to the next goal that I want to introduce to you guys, which is the identity goal. Who am I in this interaction? You are full of lies. You are such a dismissing person. So in interactions, there's time that you feel like your character is being doubted and you feel like a lot of triggers could happen. Again, maybe in a topic goal talking about contract, and then maybe you want to trust other people and give a suggestion, and the other person could be, you're just trying to sell me, so why should I believe your proposal? And so in cases like that, there's like troubleshooting ways to do that, which is to treat other with a goodwill, again, acknowledge other people's concern and ask questions to avoid giving direction. So for example, in the same case, if the person saying, you're trying to sell me your project, why should I sign a contract with you? And I don't believe you. Maybe you feel like, oh, that's not the case, but maybe take a deep breath and then you can go ahead and examine and ask questions such as, how can I make you, how can I like make you see my point, and how can I make you to see that where what I said to make what I said more believable? Do you want me to show you the stats of this product selling per month, of like how this product's doing? And you can go into details to trying to work with what the other person's concern is. Also, you could listen, for example, if that person's thinking, oh, why would I believe you? Because that's my concern. And you could really present the benefits. Maybe this is a win-win situation and what I value you for, and I don't want to sell, but this is what I truly value my product. But please feel free to go and try this out. If you believe and trust it, come back to me. Use conversation to work with the other person's concern. How can I get you to see that I'm telling the truth if someone calling you a liar? And I did not intend to dismiss your idea. It's that I disagree with you on a certain thing. For example, if people is calling you, you're such a dismissing person in an argument, and then maybe you said something, your objection offended the other person, then maybe you will go ahead and express that you don't mean to do that, and I express what you truly disagree on after you express that I don't mean to do that. So you taking the other person's concern into account. And then The next goal is the process goal, which basically means the communication process and method that will be used. It is really important to set up and communicate with what is the method of communication that will make both parties feel safe in a discussion about a conflict. So for example, I don't want to talk in the public, stop yelling at me. And so this kind of example is maybe one person likes to resolve problem in a private setting and the other person want to just start talking about the problem right away. Maybe they're still in the public shopping and starting a conflict and start yelling at each other. And maybe one person would just completely shut down and not even discuss that because that's out of that person's comfort zone. Or maybe like for parents, maybe they're having a fight and they don't want to do it in front of the kids. And maybe one person start yelling at the other person and then the other person would just tell the other person, oh, I'm not comfortable talking about it in front of my kid. And then can we adjust it in private setting that just you and me? So it's really important to express the way that you're comfortable with, whether is you're comfortable with talking about it or you're comfortable with writing about it, however way that you like to communicate, or even go to a mediator if you feel like there's absolutely no way that both party can sit down and just have a talk. There's like many ways that you guys can settle on. It's important to do that before you do a conflict, or just have your friend or your partner notice about your preference. So whenever a conflict resolution take place, you can always, both party can go contribute a safe environment for your partner or whoever you're talking to. So I would like us to address problem in private, not in front of our child. That's another example that I mentioned. So a lot of the time that we have mentioned all different four different goals, and we talk about how we can adjust each goals when there's a conflict in such goals. But a lot of the time, like we probably already brought up sometimes, that from the previous topic, that goals sometimes mix together in the same conflict. Maybe there's different goals being triggered at the same time. So now let's do a case study of one of the situations when multiple goal is triggered. So Amy maybe want to talk to Bob, and then Amy will say, can you do the dishes? I have been doing it the past few days. So now Amy is asking for a topic goal. It haven't become a conflict yet because that's just Amy's goal of the contents that she wanted to achieve for Bob to do some dishes. And Bob say, so calculated, whatever, you don't need to do anything. And now the conflict comes. It just sounds like Bob is not really cooperating with Amy. Wow, I can't believe you said that about me. I thought it wouldn't be a big deal for you to help me out and be considerate. So now there's two goals being triggered, so calculated. And Amy's be like, I'm not a calculated person. I've been working on this for many days, and why can't you just do it once? So there's relational goal. Why can't you just do it? Like, you're so not considerate to me. And identity goal, I'm not a calculated person. So the initial content of a topic goal or a contents goal have, because of the way of people talking to each other, have triggers into a identity goal and relational goal. And then now Bob will say, I've been buying groceries, grabbing takeouts for you, doing laundries. What have you done to help? So now Bob is talking about this content goal, and there's probably relational goal involved. Contents goal because Bob feels like I'm doing a lot of other chores. So he is feeling that he's overdoing all the chores, that Amy is not doing enough. And at the same time, with Bob's tone, he probably have a relational goal triggered, that feeling that you're not the one helping, but you're just complaining about me. So multiple goal is triggered right now. So Amy will respond, I did not know you felt that way. I understand. I would like to engage more with the chores in the house. I just wish you could talk to me about this without that tone. So it really upsets me. So now there's process goal going on because Amy likes to establish a method of communication in a peace manner, maybe a calm manner instead of finger pointing manner. And it really upsets me. And that's a relational goal because the way that Bob respond, maybe Amy agree with what Bob said. Oh, I can do more on other things to help you, but the way that Bob come off really upsets Amy. That's a relational goal. She will probably feel like, oh, why would you yelling at me? That hurt my feeling. And now Bob would just, oh, so now Bob came around and he just go, oh, I understand. Sorry for giving you heat. So I'm glad that in this conversation, both party come around to see the other person's side and actually acknowledge the other person's concern. And then it comes to a good ending. But there's a lot of things, the different goals. If both people haven't come to a acknowledgement of other people's concern and seeing the goal and trying to work with each other, it can go sideways. For example, it can go if, for example, if Amy is telling the XYZ methods of like, oh, you really upset me, the next time if you're upset, you can talk to me. But if she didn't do that, she can just go like, oh, okay, I know you do so much. Okay, whatever. Like you don't need to care about my feeling and you're not listening to me. That could just go a different route. So it's really important in such case, like to locate what goal is in conflict, because if you don't acknowledge, because like if Amy and Bob, they didn't acknowledge each other that they're upsetting each other and I'm sorry that I do that, maybe they're still arguing about that and they wouldn't get to the contents goal of the topic goal of, oh, so maybe now after they talk about it, acknowledge, maybe Bob wouldn't mind to help Amy sometimes, and Amy will have a light bulb, be like, oh, he needed me to help him with the other stuff like the groceries, and I don't mind. So that's when they can start talking to each other and figure out what the contents goal work for each other. For example, okay, I'm good at maybe this and grocery, or maybe mopping floors, or taking the kids to school, or if they're a couple, or that could be roommates and friends, and what I'm good at. And then maybe Bob could do the other stuff. Oh, I'm good at laundries, I'm good at maintaining the electric pipes or whatever doesn't works in the house. So maybe they can come to like a really clear task and really figure out, oh, what you want me to do in such content, and then what I want you to do, and actually resolve the content goal after they resolve the relational goal. So after talking about so many triggers of identity goals, relational goals, and process goal mostly, maybe we can see a rhythm of the way of the tone of how you talk to each other and the use of words that really could triggers like a conflict in a way that you don't mean to. In a contents goal, you goes to relational problems. So that's the reason now I want to introduce you to the four horsemen. And that's a concept that it's important for us to be all acknowledged, because that's something that really cause a strain on a relationship. That's something that we should be aware and not do to our partners, and trying to know and learn the proper way to respond when that happens. So okay, so the first horseman is criticism. Criticism is more than a complaint. That's you're attacking the other person rather than the behavior. Examples such as, what is wrong with you? This happened all because of you. So in this case, if someone talked to someone like that, for example, back to the dishes task, if this is the way someone start talking to the other person, maybe the other person will be like, why are you talking to me like that? What do you mean? What is wrong with me? And they will never get to the contents goal of what is upsetting you, what I can do, because the tone of how this come off. You never do dishes. So the troubleshooting of this is a gentle startup. maybe when you feel like you wanted the other person to work harder on a certain thing, maybe instead of saying, oh, we need to have a talk of certain thing, let's have a talk about this. Maybe you can start up with the technique of giving credit to the other person of, oh, I really appreciate that you have been helping out the house, but something that really bothers me, make me feel like I'm alone on doing dishes, like, and doing house chores, when I feel like you've just been watching TVs every night when I'm doing dishes. Um, would you like help me to work on that and help me with some dishes sometimes? That will make me really happy. So that it's a lot softer way to come off to a partner, and it's easier for the other person to listen in. And voice complaint without blame. Examples: share feelings, sort of the XYZ kind of, and voice complaint without blaming, no blaming. Someone could be messed up, try to do a laundry for you and mix all the colors, and your clothes could be all messed up. You could either say, oh, it's you that you messed up everything, I'm really pissed off right now, or you can just say, you're making me really upset. This is making me really upset because all my clothes are super valuable, but I know it already happened. Would you be more careful and what you want the other person to do in the future? Maybe separate the clothes. So the next horseman is contempt. It's the biggest predator of relationship ending, speaking down to partner, insulting, name calling. It is really, this is a really dangerous things to do in any relationship, whether with friend or family or in a romantic relationship. It's really hard for anyone to take any name calling or rude comment from the other person. For example, you're an idiot. Of course you didn't do the dishes. And that, I feel like that could happen in life. Although when we talk about it, you will maybe feel like, oh, why would this ever happen? But maybe it happens. Maybe peer pressures. Hey, you gotta man up to this. Like, why are you like don't want to come party with us? And there's like a lot of things that a cross play of identity conflict and everything with a contempt, because there's finger pointing over there. So it's important for us to be aware and not do that to our partners and our friends, people we care. So the troubleshooting for that is to validate your partner. For example, the classic dishes example, before you want to say something, say thank you for taking care of the chore, thank you for helping, or give credit to the other person before you want to express what you're saying. Show appreciation for their positive behaviors. And then maybe you want to talk about, I really appreciate this for you, but maybe something else on if you would like to do this, instead of contempt and just pointing finger at you, just lazy, you don't want to do anything. So that's another no. So the next one is defensiveness. And then for defensiveness, maybe a lot of you might have the experience that you're talking to other people and then that person maybe just come back to you as, oh, what you talking about? Oh, you do this. Why don't you just do dishes? Oh, why don't you just go clean the bathroom? Maybe that kind of examples will comes out, that kind of experience. It's either people showing unwillingness to acknowledge faults or counterattack, whining, playing victims. And they can be like, this is not my fault, it's yours, but I didn't mean to. So it's important for us to accept responsibility for our parts in the conflict. And it's conflict is hard because it's a compound factor. The compound factor is not just taking the responsibility, but what makes taking the responsibility hard is the part of how you communicate and doesn't trigger all the goal conflict and criticism. So make the other person feel good. And as a part of taking the suggestions, take a deep breath if what you heard is not what you really like to hear, but you understand what the other person is coming from, take a deep breath and acknowledge your responsibility. And then after that, maybe you can talk about, express, oh, your tone is upsetting me. Can you like go softer? I understand you're angry. So defensiveness, that's something that we have to be aware and take our responsibility in our relationship with anyone that we care. Stonewalling, times that maybe you're talking to somebody about, hey, like something that you really upset, and maybe people just zone you out in a way of maybe they're just rolling their eyes around, looking around like you're not talking to them. Or maybe sometimes there's like, yeah, there's no comeback. There's no showing of understanding, sure, and just silence. You just keep talking and they just silence, maybe watching TV and act like they're falling asleep. So stonewalling is basically withdrawing from interaction and shutting down, or tuning out or acting busy. And so the way to practice that is to practice a lot of time that people are not able to respond. A lot of time it's probably because they they feel like they're being critiqued, and it's really hard when criticism is pointed at you sometimes, and that's really hard. And so it's important to do this self-soothing process, take a deep breath, calm down, and then listen and give a response to the other person, and then use all the technique that we mentioned earlier about if there's other things that you want to work on, but don't sidetrack into, for example, you know that you want to give acknowledgement to the other person, but then now you want to argue about that person's for the attitude. It's really important to separate different goals and techniques and do one thing at a time, because you could say, oh, I acknowledge that, okay, I'll work on that, and then but can you be softer when you talk? But if you mix everything together, it goes like, would you stop yelling at me first? What are you talking to me? So that would never come to a result. So it's important to take a deep breath and, you know, be calm and respond to whatever conversations with your partner. So do not stonewalling, because that make the other person feel like, oh, I am invisible, not being acknowledged, and that will hurt people's feeling. So that's the four horsemen for today. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you. I will just pass it back to Jose for now.
Thank you so much, JiaQi. If there's any questions, please, audience, please feel free to put it in the chat. Alternatively, I'm going, because of timing, I'm also going to just start doing my closing, which some of you have heard already. So, but thank you so much, JiaQi, for just providing us that wonderful presentation for our skills workshop series, and for sharing. I truly appreciate your insights and your approach, and just being able to reshare some of the great content that you have attained, and being able to get the audience involved through Jamboard as well. So thank you for your insights, your approach as a peace builder, conflict resolver, but most of all, your passion and kindness in all that you do. And last but not least, thank you to all of you for joining today's webinar. We deeply appreciate your interest in supporting joining us to learn about peer mediation programs throughout Hawaii at the 34th Annual Peer Mediation Conference, Adventures in Peer Mediation. As a friendly reminder, we still do have 11 more events in the conference. So thank you again, everybody.